Well, I get really stressed out because, back whenever I was binge drinking off and on and struggling with alcoholism, I would have withdrawal seizures, because I was more of a binge drinker. I would drink a whole lot and then stop. That depletes your GABA, and GABA is the neurotransmitter that keeps your brain waves nice and calm and balanced. And so when you deplete that and you withdraw, you can go into seizures and you can die. It's very serious. But, when you're in addiction, you don't really care and you're not thinking logically, right? And so I actually had a seizure while driving. I wrecked into a parked car. So I woke up to the paramedics breaking into my car. When you have a grand mal seizure, a lot of times it's like dying and coming back to life.
Thanks for tuning in to the Elevation Recovery Podcast, your hub for addiction recovery strategies, hosted by Chris Scott and Matt Finch.
Greetings, this is Matt Finch, and welcome to episode 214. In today's episode, we get to hear from very special guest, Laura Lee, who has struggled with alcoholism, anxiety, and depression, and she's also almost 1 year off of alcohol, and she's a certified Kundalini yoga instructor, a certified clinical aromatherapist, a certified Hatha yoga teacher, a certified Reiki practitioner, the founder of Infinity Wellness Center at infinitywellness.co, and a certified recovery nutrition coach. Laura and I had a great conversation about alcoholism, addiction, high sensitivity trait, aromatherapy and essential oils for recovery, and health and wellness in general, and much more. And without further ado, let's now hear from Laura. Thank you so much for joining us today, Laura. I'm excited to talk to you.
Hey, Matt, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excited to be here.
You're going to be our go-to specialist for aromatherapy and essential oils. Chris and I, my co-host, we're trying to knock down interviews with specialists on all these topics that we love, but we're nowhere near as, qualified to be able to do a whole podcast episode on something like aromatherapy. So thank you so much for that. And to get started, why don't you just tell us where in life you were felt called to be of service, and where you got called to learn about health, natural medicine, and energy healing, all the stuff that I grew up with in my household. My parents are herbalists, and they have an herb school where they teach, and they have teachers come in for aromatherapy, meditation, Chinese psychology, crystal healing, all sorts of cool stuff. So you're like another wonderful person that understands this language, and we're trying to educate the masses. Basically, we have people all over the world listening to this podcast, educate people on actually not alternative solutions. These are traditional medicines that have been used for thousands and thousands of years. So this is actually traditional medicine, energy healing and plant therapy and all that. So I'll just let you start.
All right, Matt, thank you. Well, I'm jealous that you got to grow up with energetic healing modalities, because I had to learn all this stuff on my own. I grew up in Oklahoma eating Hamburger Helper and Captain Crunch and all that stuff. So, yeah, the stuff that we eat, right? So I had to learn it on my own. So, where it really started is you and I had talked about being a highly sensitive person. I didn't really realize I was a highly sensitive person until I started learning about that we're all energy, and it kind of started clicking. But whenever I was little, I would see an ambulance racing to the scene of an accident. I would think, oh my gosh, someone needs help. I need to be there helping them. And it would just really hit me hard. I would almost start crying as a little girl. And so right out of high school, I moved out of a small town in Oklahoma and came to Oklahoma City and went to a little community college and became an EMT. And from there, I started learning about the human body and how wonderful it was and mysterious it was. So I decided I wanted to be a medical doctor. And so I joined a university and started studying pre-med biology and chemistry. And I took classes in biochemistry and physics. And from there, I realized, wow, we really are 99.9% energy. And I understood that we needed to bring in higher energy things into our body and into our environment in order to heal and to live our optimal life. And so instead of going to medical school, I did get my degree, but instead of going to medical school, I started a family, got married, and had 2 children. My children are grown now. I've got a 22-year-old son and a 19-year-old daughter. But when they were babies, I did the whole natural health thing with their baby food, and I didn't vaccinate them, and did as many energetic healing things with them as I could. So, and I had a health crisis that really brought everything home for me. In 2010, in 2006, I had put saline breast implants in my body. And by 2010, I was almost dead because I didn't been diagnosed with 11 different illnesses. I was having seizures, and I was diagnosed with polycystic endocrine failure. And medical science could only give me pills and basically send me home to die. But I had aspergillus fungus growing in my saline breast implant, and it almost killed me until a friend helped me figure out that that's what was truly going on with my health. And of course, I sought out a woman who wrote a book, The Naked Truth About Breast Implants, and she helped me figure out that it was the aspergillus mold growing in my body that was killing me. And from there, it was a huge awakening, I would say, in 2010, because I was so sick I couldn't get out of bed. I wrote goodbye letters to my children, who were 8 and 10 at the time, and said, I'm going to die because I can't even get out of bed and I can't even see anymore. But I had the breast implants removed, and I started to heal. And then I had a vision of a comprehensive wellness center. So from there, I just started studying all of the natural health stuff I could get my hands on, everything from Kundalini yoga. I got certified in Kundalini yoga, Hatha yoga, and aromatherapy was in there also. So that's when I became a certified clinical aromatherapist, was in 2013. So I'm sure that's plenty of information to get us started on my journey.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. It feels to me like you were pre-programmed with the inner knowing and a kind of inner blueprint of being of service to humanity, and that form of service to help people increase their health and their vibration. And you became an EMT. My life was saved by EMTs about 9.5 years ago. I had what would have been a deadly overdose. I had taken too much methadone and diazepam, the generic for Valium, together. And I had been doing that for about 48 hours. And my mom found me. She said that her spirit guides told her, go check on Matthew. And she got this terrible feeling. She came downstairs, opened my door. There I was on the bed, on my back with my face gray, lips blue, wasn't breathing, vomit trickling out of the sides of my mouth. Had she not, my door was shut. Had her spirit guides not given her that, like, go down and check on Matthew now, I would have been dead. She called the EMTs, and they gave me naloxone, saved my life, took me to the hospital. Was there for a week, had pneumonia, lung infection, all sorts of stuff. But had that not happened, she just all of a sudden heard her spirit guide say that, got that premonition. The EMTs got there. The doctor at the hospital said, if they had got there 1 or 2 minutes later, I would have been dead.
Oh my goodness.
And so I love people, and my cousin used to be an EMT too. So I have the utmost respect for EMTs, for doctors, nurses, for energy healings, for anyone teaching the world how to get healthier or helping to save our lives. And I'm a HSP too, although I didn't learn about that until my mid 30s. And it's so important. And I think a lot of my life was so messed up because I didn't know that. I didn't know that I had this innate trait. I'm curious, when did you learn about it and what did that process look like? Because we have a lot of listeners and watchers, a lot of them that are HSPs and don't know it. And here they are self-medicating with typically CNS depressants to calm that innate trait down. And so it's one of my favorite topics, actually.
Wow. Yes. Well, yes, I agree with that 100% that many HSPs become addicts to all different substances or behaviors because this world that we live in is so chaotic and crazy. And when you're a highly sensitive person, if you don't have some type of modalities to get you grounded and to get you centered and to get you out of your sensitivity, then it's overwhelming for sure. So I honestly have just been learning about the term HSP over the last couple of years. I've heard some people that channel like Teal Swan.
Love her.
I watch her on YouTube. I've heard her talk about it.
You kind of look like her too.
Do I?
Yeah, you look you look like you could be her sister.
That's a compliment. So thank you. But I have honestly just been, since I've struggled with alcoholism and alcoholism runs in my family, I'm very motivated to spread the word about addiction and highly sensitive people and what they can do to shift from substance abuse to modalities that will help them deal with daily life. So
that's awesome. Yeah, it seems like, well, right now the whole planetary kind of generalized level of consciousness is at a place where HSPs, it can be hard to thrive in America and other fast-paced countries, even if we know this information. But when we don't know the information, it's like, why am I so different? Why am I so sensitive, especially with children and adolescents? Then it's like, oh, I'm so sensitive. So with that sensitivity, you're able to see things maybe deeper and process intuitions and smells and aromatherapies. So with that innate trait, which 20% of the human population has innate from birth, and I think they found more than 100 species of animals too are HSPs. In fact, I know for a fact that my bird Papaya, who I met in Oahu, it was love and an inner knowing at first sight. I walked into the pet store. Oh, so here's another crazy thing. I was in Hawaii. I've never cared about birds at all. I've never wanted a bird for a pet, never thought about it once. I thought they were annoying at friends' houses when I'd go because they're so loud and who wants a bird? I had this weird like voice or intuition say, go look at birds. Here I am in this nice 5-story townhome on Kaneohe Bay in Hawaii. It was gorgeous, beautiful. It was paradise. And I was like, oh, maybe get a bird and put it out here. So I told my fiance at the time, hey, I'm thinking of going to the pet store, look at birds. And I figured she'd just be like, that's stupid. Da, da, da. She's like, okay, cool. Want to go right now? And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess we're going. Half hour later, we were there. She walks up to the front of the habitat, cocks her head like this, and it was love at first sight. And I was so I don't know if she called me to her or if there was some divine stuff playing with the pieces, give me that. But she's an HSP and she's a female, and she has been probably 70 to 80% of me getting rid of anxiety and intermittent depression, combination of her and many things. But so yeah, animals can be HSPs too. And it's just pets are great for HSP people. But this topic is about aromatherapy. And I think that segues nice into the energetics of aromatherapy. I love all my stuff up there. I typically do lavender and peppermint by day, and then, or citrus and lavender. And then I've got a bunch of stuff for the bath, eucalyptus, lavender. So how did you get into aromatherapy? What was that process like? You didn't just like read a book on it. You actually went for formal training. And this stuff is, you have to be fairly intelligent and very passionate to learn the science of how these works and get really into it.
Oh yes, it's very much in science. I've got to say something about your experience with your bird, though. So you're a finch,
Mhm.
and my boyfriend, who I've been with for 8 months now, his name is Caleb Finch. So so I call him Finch because my son's name is Caleb, and you don't call your boyfriend the same name as your son. So he's Finch to me. So you're a Finch, he's a Finch. So you guys like birds. So I
Awesome.
definitely believe in animals being HSPs too.
Mhm.
So, but as far as how I got into aromatherapy, it just, I started out with yoga. I started doing, are you familiar with Maya Fines? She's Kundalini yoga. She was teaching Kundalini yoga on television. So one day I think it was like in 2008 or 2009, I started doing Kundalini yoga in my living room with the breathing techniques and the movement and the mantra. And I was like, wow, I don't know what this is, but this is really powerful. So I started doing some of the meditations. And the next thing I know, that there was a teacher training for Kundalini yoga coming to Oklahoma City. So I signed up and became certified as a Kundalini yoga teacher first. And then from there, I started learning about essential oils, I think through Kundalini yoga. But then I started learning about the science of how they work. And I knew for sure that I wanted to go deeper. So I signed up with the Institute of Spiritual Healing and Aromatherapy. And they came to Oklahoma City and brought a 300-hour clinical aromatherapy training course. And so I did that for a year.
300 hours.
300 hours,
Wow.
yes. So we very much went deep into the physical aspects, the physical healing aspects of aromatherapy and essential oils, and then also the emotional and mental aspect and spiritual aspect of essential oils and how they work. So, but essential oils are the liquid lifeblood of plants. So that can come from bark, seeds, petals of flowers, roots, very much, all different parts of the plant. You can extract different oils, and those different oils have different frequencies based on what part of the plant that they come from. So that's one of the ways that we know kind of how energetically how they work.
Whoa. I mean, because when I heard about aromatherapy, it was when I was living with I think when I was a teenager, they had their first aromatherapy teacher come and teach at their school. And back then I was like, well, I believe in meditation and I believe in yoga and all that. But aromatherapy seemed like just total BS to me. It turns out I was the fool, because the science behind it is so profound and people go so deep. A 300-hour training class on that. And then, I have a diffuser, which I use, and I put them in the bathtub. But those are literally the only two ways I typically use them. And so I know that you know about a bunch of different ways. Could you talk about some of those different, like what are some of the
Sure.
most common helpful ways to use essential oils?
So obviously diffusing them is a really powerful thing to do. So if you're wanting to change the energy of a room, like I, like you, have struggled with addiction, and I got a DUI last year. And so I'm having to go to that disgusting low vibe courthouse because I'm in this DUI court now. I'm having to deal with that. And so I actually, the mask wearing because of COVID, I'll put a little bit of essential oils like lavender or peppermint like you use, or eucalyptus inside of my mask before I go into that courtroom, so I can just inhale that, because that place stinks and it's gross and it's dirty. But if you're in like an office place where the energy it's not good or chaotic, you can diffuse essential oils and help the energy of the room. And I used to work in hospice as an aromatherapist, and I would take diffusers into people's homes. So whenever they were in the dying process, excuse me, that the essential oils would help to lift the fear of death in the home. And so diffusing essential oils can be really powerful, but we can use them on our skin for skin infections. Like my ex-husband had plantar warts, and those are really hard to get rid of. Yeah. So he shared those with me in the shower. And so I used, I got those on my feet, and I tried everything. I even went to the dermatologist to have it burnt off, and it still wouldn't go away. But I started using the essential oils that we do in raindrop technique, which is a technique that you may have heard of it, but you put oregano, thyme, basil, cypress, wintergreen, marjoram, and peppermint all on the spine. And it helps heal people from all kinds of things. But I used those oils on this plantar wart, and it finally went away. I mean, it went away within like 3 weeks of putting these on there once a day. So, and this was like going to the dermatologist and having them try to remove it, and it didn't work. So
like freeze it and then slice it.
Yes, it was painful and awful, and it still came back. It was awful. So you can also put essential oils directly on your tongue. Like if you have a toothache, like I have clove essential oil here. You can actually put that on a Q-tip and put it on a tooth, like maybe that's a little bit decayed and you can't make it to the dentist and it's painful. You can use that, and they're highly antiseptic.
You're bringing me down memory lane.
Really?
When I'd have a bad toothache when I was a teenager, and then, it's the weekend, you can't go to the dentist, or my dad would do that. Here, put this on here. You're bringing me down a bad memory lane, but then it makes me grateful that it's so far away.
And my daughter used to get strep throat quite a bit. She went to public school, and of course the doctors just want to give you antibiotics constantly. So eucalyptus globulus is one that I discovered, where I would just get distilled water. And I would, first I would put like a teaspoon of just table salt works, or you can use the saline or the nasal salt that you use to make saline rinse for your nasal passage. But you can put some salt into a cup, and then just put a couple of drops of eucalyptus and a couple of drops of tea tree essential oil onto the salt, and put a couple of cups of distilled water and gargle. And then, we did that a few times with her, and it would clear the strep throat up almost every time. Like no more going to the doctor with the strep throat. So using essential oils as a gargle works wonderfully. You can use them if you know what you're doing as a nasal rinse. If you get sinus infections or anything like that, you can put essential oils directly on your tongue, like tea tree oil, just one drop. A little bit goes a long way, and it can help with any kind of infection that you might be getting. You can just put essential oils on your hand and rub them and inhale them and breathe them in for any kind of lung congestion. And I'm sure I'm leaving some out, ways to use essential oils, but yes, they're very dynamic. You can take them internally. You can put them in a capsule with coconut oil, but I don't typically recommend that Excuse me, Matt. I don't know why I'm having issues right now.
No sweat.
Because they're so potent, the essential oils are so strong that sometimes they can upset your stomach, and you can only use a little bit at a time. And then I think that your microflora, your bacterial balance in your stomach is really delicate. So you want to be really careful and not use too much essential oils if you take them internally.
Wow, thank you for that. And I know there's even more than that, but it's so apparent how versatile these are, how dynamic they are. And when I was in my early 20s, that's when I got into serious alcohol abuse and even physiological and psychological alcohol dependence. And my mom was trying to get me to try things like aromatherapy, essential oils, and herb tea, strong passion flower tea. And I didn't want to even try any of that stuff because I thought that no, my alcoholism and my anxiety and this stuff, it's too strong. None of those natural remedies are going to work. I need Valium or Xanax, and I need lots of it. I thought that was like my go-tos back then, were alcohol or benzodiazepines. Those were the only things that I knew of, and then eventually opioids that calmed down my overactive brain and anxiety and, childhood trauma, just numbed me from all the scary people and busyness and just very fearful. And so I didn't even give it a chance back then. I wish I would have, but better late than never. So nowadays I'm using it mostly like you said, to change the energy of the room. So here in my office, oftentimes in the day, I'll do a combination of lavender and peppermint essential oil. And that kind of I read about that combo. It's supposed to be like peppermint's good to give you focus and motivation. And I love the smell of peppermint. And then lavender is just really relaxing and calming for the heart and a mood booster. And so now we could transition into how to use essential oils for things like anxiety or depression, addiction, pain relief. And of course, we know it's not FDA approved for addiction or mental health. Everything that's FDA approved are drugs that kill tens of thousands of people every year. So I don't want people to think that these are FDA approved, but I like to talk about things that give results. I don't care if things are evidence-based, things that are results-based. And it's, so many people get such amazing benefits from using essential oils. So how can people that have never started this before get into starting to use it? How could they get a kit? What are some blends for if they're anxious, if they're super depressed, if they're, trying to quit alcohol or another addiction?
So, first of all, we should talk about how the sense of smell is directly linked to the limbic center of your brain, which is the emotional center of your brain. And so smell is one of the most powerful ways to tap into your emotions and to do some reprogramming. So for me, the smells can trigger just joy or just absolute fear. And so we need to be mindful of that for sure, because you're accessing your emotional center of your brain. In fact, there's a book written by Carolyn Mean. She's a doctor of chiropractic medicine, but I don't know if you can see that, but it's Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils.
Ooh, I'm going to buy that. Never seen
Yeah.
it.
And so in here, she talks about, acupressure points where you can use essential oils all throughout your body, and which essential oils to use. And so as far as anxiety, there's Young Living they make therapeutic grade essential oils, and I have never really gotten into the building a business, or the network marketing. That's just not my thing, but I trust Young Living. because they make therapeutic grade essential oils, meaning they farm their plants or get their plants that they extract the oils from their farms or trusted farms where they know that the plants are raised organically, with the right soil, the right temperature, the right elevation. All of those things contribute to the quality of the essential oil. So Young Living makes several blends. One of my favorite for anxiety and stress is one that they make is called Stress Away. And I believe it's got lime and vanilla and lavender. I can't think of what else is in there, but I think there's about 5 different essential oils. Ooh. And blends kind of create a synergy that are really powerful. So the frequency of these blends is a high vibration. And so that really works well on your emotional center of your brain when inhaling. So they make roll-ons, which are really neat because you can just roll it on your wrist and just keep it there and inhale it, or you can throw it in your purse or your pocket and carry it around with you. If you're going to be like me and have to go into a court setting and you're going to be stressed out, you can keep those on hand. They make peace and calming blends. And of course, lavender is there. So, and then there's some single oils. Like you said, peppermint's a great one to keep on hand. So sometimes I'll get anxiety while driving in traffic or something. And, especially being a highly sensitive person, if there's a lot of chaos in my environment, sometimes I just need the grounding and the upliftingness at the same time. So peppermint tends to do that. So I'll carry peppermint with me and just take a smell of that whenever I need it. And then there's other single essential oils like lemon that's really uplifting, and sandalwood, peppermint, rose. Do you know why rose is, that's why people give roses when they're falling in love, is because roses have one of the highest frequencies known to man. So if you're wanting somebody to fall in love with you, you give them roses. So.
I knew there had to be. I remember Tony Robbins. I think it was at the Unleash the Power Within first seminar I went to in my early 30s. And I remember him bringing up that part about, not as in detail as you just said, but talking about that the rose scent frequency is so high. So that is a trip. And I just have a little kit that came with 8 essential oils. But now I'm jealous because I've been having to concoct my own recipes. So with this Young Living brand that you use, they actually do that for you. So you can get specific formulas that have, a few or even 5 or more for things like calming and other things. That sounds really awesome. I know mine are organic, but guaranteed, I know they're not the best type that I can get. So I'd love to start getting them from you once these ones are gone, because those ones sound awesome. And roll-on stuff, holy moly. It just makes it so convenient. And sometimes I drive to LA. I live in San Diego, California. And sometimes I have to drive to Los Angeles and then back. Every time I do that, no matter how good of a mood I'm in, no matter how relaxed I'm in, that drive, as soon as you start getting close to LA and Orange County, there's always traffic. Always. And the drivers up there are even crazier than San Diego. So now when I do that, I'd love to have one of those roll-on ones, or actually bring my little kit on the drive up there. So I have these nice natural remedies, because my neck gets super tense. I'll drive up there, 2-hour drive. And the whole last part of it, the whole last half hour, 45 minutes, I'm just like this, just bracing myself, being careful. And it just makes my trapezoids tense. My neck will be out. And, it doesn't need to be that, because I don't have Valiums or alcohol or any of that kind of stuff nowadays. So thank you for that tip right there. That sounds very helpful.
Well, I get really stressed out because, you know, back whenever I was binge drinking off and on and struggling with alcoholism, I would have withdrawal seizures. You know, because I was more of a binge drinker. I would drink a whole lot and then stop. And then, you know, that depletes your GABA, and GABA is the neurotransmitter that keeps your brain waves nice and calm and balanced. And so when you deplete that and you are withdraw, you can go into seizures and you can die. It's very serious. But you know, when you're in addiction, you don't really care and you're not thinking logically, right? And so I actually had a seizure while driving.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah,
What were
and
you
so
doing driving in that state?
I didn't know that, and I know that that sounds awful. Spirit took care of me, but I had a wreck. I wrecked into a parked car, and so I woke up to the paramedics breaking into my car. And when you have a grand mal seizure, a lot of times it's like dying and coming back to life because they talk to you and you don't even know your name. You don't even know who you are. You don't even know what planet you're on, really. It's really a really strange feeling. But that gave me a lot of anxiety for long time. So I still, when driving, I still get anxiety quite a bit and almost have panic attacks with that. So,
Became
um,
kind of like a linked conditioned stimulus. It happened one time, but it
yeah,
was so powerful that your brain kind of linked just driving in general to like that could happen at any time
yes, yes,
or
yes.
something bad
So,
could happen.
right. So, so I had to go through therapy, but then essential oils have helped a lot with that, and amino acids have helped a lot with my anxiety and panic attacks for sure.
This is
So
awesome stuff. And so with essential oils, number one, they can help a great deal with anxiety and other unpleasant emotions and physiological things going on. And what you're saying is when we inhale it through our nose, that stimulates the emotional center of the brain, the limbic system, the amygdala, so it can calm down fear or it can uplift us out of depression. And this is like wonderful, fascinating stuff. I just did a video recently on opioid detox remedies, A to Z masterclass. And it was funny. Almost every one of the remedies that I was talking about, at least the medications, was they quiet down the amygdala, whether it's a gabapentinoid or whether it's a benzodiazepine or whether it's the NSS2 bridge used by acupuncturists. It all targets the amygdala and it quiets down the opioid withdrawal induced CNS rebound effect fight or flight response. So I love talking about how the essential oils and the natural modalities actually affect us in our brains. And then GABA. Oh, I didn't learn about GABA until I think my early 30s. And meanwhile, just tons of alcohol benders and physiological
right.
dependence, tons of benzodiazepine benders, opioid benders by that point. And when you were talking about the aromatherapy combos, if you do these three, there's a synergistic effect. I just thought it was funny how far that I've come because I used to love the synergistic effects of benzos, opioids, and muscle relaxers. Those three, that was the old type of synergy I liked. And to this day, like that kind of stuff's just, I don't even care about it at all anymore. I used those combinations because it made me feel so good, but I feel way better nowadays than I ever did back then because it's not only is it's like a biochemical feeling of health, brain health, but it's also lifestyle stuff. It's meaning, it's life situations. So GABA, could you
Yes.
and you're such a specialist in GABA, amino acid therapy, and a lot of stuff about nutrition and supplementation. We had talked before. I can't remember if you're uh, currently in the classes for addiction and mental health nutrition certification, or if you've already been certified and you're continuing.
So I have just finished up the coursework for level 1 certified recovery nutrition coach. And so I'm in my internship right now. So I'm meeting with clients daily, basically, to coach them. I have them fill out an amino acid therapy chart to see what they're depleted in. And then we talk about what amino acids and what nutrition they can use to restore their neurotransmitters like GABA and serotonin and endorphins. And the big one is dopamine. So I think we talked about how tyrosine has really helped you, right, Matt? Have you
Yeah,
used tyrosine?
tyrosine, probably the ones that helped me the most in the past, and I hardly ever take them anymore. DLPA, tyrosine, and theanine seem to be, and glutamine, but really the DLPA was by far the number one, closely followed by tyrosine. Yeah, it just made me feel amazing. I wasn't
Yeah.
able to get through the post-acute withdrawal, quitting opioids. The first few times I did it, it's too hard. The last time I did it, I was coming off heroin. My half brother's mother, so literally my brother from another mother's, so his mother sent me down some stuff from Apex Energetics. One was called Dopatone, and the other supplement was Gabatone. So these had DLPA, tyrosine, macunapurians, lithium orotate, passion flower, valerian, B6. I think that's it. And those things started to make me feel so much better so fast. Within days, my opioid post-acute withdrawal symptoms were just dissolving so quick. And I just kept going and kept feeling better and better. Those amino acids were straight up miracles for at least myself.
Yes, they've been a miracle for me. I truly believe, because alcoholism runs in my family, and I don't know if you want to get into this right now, but my mother just died 11 months ago from lifelong heavy ethanol use. Her body basically just shut down at age 65, and she died. Back in August of last year, and then my brother committed suicide just in January, just 7 months ago. He was only 46 years old. He was a veteran, and he had PTSD, but he used that as a reason to be an alcoholic. And so he he tried to quit using alcohol on his own, and then he couldn't do it. So he went on a binge and drank like a 30 pack of beer and basically just went crazy, and blew his brains out in his living room just in January. So anyway, alcoholism runs in my family, and it's affected me very profoundly. And so I decided after my mom died last year in November, that I knew that I was going to die like her if I didn't do something about this binge drinking alcohol like I was. And so I tapered off so I didn't have a seizure, and came across the amino acids and started taking them. And it turns out that GABA and theanine and taurine is actually an anticonvulsant that restores your GABA, worked miraculously for me. And also for my sleep. In alcoholism, you don't sleep. And I started sleeping finally and feeling so much better. So I definitely studied the amino acids because of and now it's my mission.
It's your calling. It is
It's
your
my
calling.
it's my calling.
Yeah.
I know. So I won't let my mother's death or my brother's death be in vain. I will definitely, I'm reaching out to people every day. I go to AA meetings, and I'm meeting all kinds of people there, all kinds of that struggle with all kinds of addiction. And I'm starting to educate them on recovery nutrition.
Oh, they're so blessed to have you at their meetings. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I would have stuck around those rooms had there been people talking about these ways of healing. When I was the first time I led a meeting, probably a month into going at the age of 24, my topic was exercise, nutrition, and supplements. Not a single person, this is, more than this is like almost 2 decades ago now, actually. Nobody at all shared on the topic. And in fact, 4 or 5 people dissed the topic, saying it wasn't, this isn't AA related. We got the big book and the 12 steps and all that. So they were very anti that stuff, very closed-minded. Had I had people that were like positive and into the natural health and stuff and closer to my age, I probably would have thrived in that.
Right. Well, so I go to the agnostic and secular AA group because I'm more of a spiritual person and not religious, and I don't want to go into those meetings and feel like I'm walked into a church. And so I get to go to these meetings where we keep it really pretty open. And so people are open-minded there. Wow. And I just met with a guy a couple of days ago who had just done meth 7 days earlier. And he was a fireman, and he had lost his job because of his meth use. I'm sure you're familiar with meth, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's really rampant in Oklahoma, unfortunately. So,
too.
And I met with him and we did muscle testing. I took my amino acids and my essential oils, and we did muscle testing and found out which, and the amino acid therapy chart. I had him fill that out, and he went and bought the amino acids, and he's doing great. We'll check in by text message every other day to see how he's doing. He asks me questions, but yes, he has hope. He's excited about his recovery because of the nutritional aspect of recovery.
This is making me feel so good hearing about this, because all of your struggles that you've faced in the past, and even the ones that you're still going through with the DUI court, like you said, they're not all for naught. Because as a result of that, and with your brother and your mother, I'm just already visualizing all the people that you're already impacting and helping to get healthier and away from addiction and who knows what other issues. And then over the years and over the decades, because you're still very young, how many people that you could help. And then from all those people that you help, which ones of all those people decide to help others as well.
Exactly.
Then all of a sudden it's this butterfly effect where you're raising the frequency of the world, of people's consciousness, of their health. I didn't know they had the secular or agnostic AA meetings. Is it still the 12 steps? Is it still like a higher power thing, just without the yes. Lord's Prayer and that? Because that's, in my opinion, that is by far the best aspect of that. Is it helps to bring about spiritual experiences, and it helps people's awareness and God consciousness to like when I was doing that program at the beginning, I was seeing synchronicities and signs that were not explainable, not logical at all when I was praying every day. And I still pray every single day. I turn my life over and surrender, but I'm not religious whatsoever. I just know there's an infinity love light energy source that is way more powerful than me. And I'll never understand it. None of us ever will, but it's out there and we can utilize it to really make powerful changes and to, tame the ego. That's where I see a lot of people that are total atheists. Their ego, there's no power greater than their ego. But
exactly.
Ego is edge God out. So if you think your power is the greatest, your ego is the greatest power, it just shows me that people haven't really explored that avenue. Because if you do deep exploration into this and deep practice, eventually a person realizes the ego ain't shit.
Exactly. That the higher power lives in us, but it's not our ego. It's opposite of our ego. And there are some people that come to these agnostic and secular meetings that I can tell that they call themselves atheists, right? And you can tell it's their ego. And I have empathy for those people, because most of the time they have had very traumatic experiences in their life. And they felt like that their ego or their self was the only thing that they could depend on. And they live in fear, and so they just cling on to this thing. And it's their ego. And that's the only thing that's real to them sometimes, I mean, that's not the case for everyone, but some of the ones that I've met, that are like that, that's the story. So, but yes, I love what you said about, the 12 steps are very powerful because it talks about surrendering to a higher power. And I definitely do that every day. I mean, anything that could create an infinite universe, ain't got shit on that. Like you said, I can't even
keep my
compare.
kitchen clean,
Right. So it's definitely way bigger than me and my little problems.
And what are your visions for the future? So you just finished your certification and now you're doing the thing where you're interning and you're going to these awesome meetings that sound wonderful. I'm going to see if there's ones around here that I could recommend clients to and people, because a lot of people are just turned off by that. But
so
then,
you know about the meeting guide, right, Matt? There's an app called the meeting guide. So that's how there's an app called the meeting guide, and it's, for AA meetings that people can get on their phone and look at what meetings are close by. So hopefully there'll be some there in San Diego.
Yeah, I'd like to go visit one and just check it out. That sounds like a fun, novel experience. Do you think they'd let me bring papaya?
I don't know. Probably so. I mean, I've got really laid back folks in my group. So
yeah, I had to back in the day. I just had to stop going because the people weren't open-minded. Basically, they were just really hardcore. A lot of them really hardcore big book thumpers. So when I would do cannabis or when I would do Valium and go to meetings and stuff, I wasn't sharing or anything, but people would come up, hey, I heard you're on the M&M plan. I was like, what's that? Marijuana maintenance? And it was like this kind of scoff, like this spiritual ego.
right.
There was so many people with the spiritual ego. It was a huge turnoff. So I can't wait to check this new avenue out.
Those people are on the freaking sugar plan. They gained 400 pounds and they're sitting there shoving coffee and sugar in their face all day long, so you could look at them and say, well, I heard you're on the fat plan or something,
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
I'm sorry, but we're all addicted to all different things. And if you're on the judgment path, then you can just stay on that path, because I won't be walking that one with you. I'm on the love path. So.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. And in hindsight, in retrospect, connecting the dots, looking backwards, I just thank all of them, because had I stayed, I probably never would have found Chris and we never would have started this podcast together. So I'm so thankful that I had all those experiences, because it all ended up working out in the long run once I started to get an ownership mindset instead of the victim energy mindset. So what are your plans for the future? Imagine 5 years from now, where do you see your professional things going? You're in like a kind of rebuilding phase now. What about personal goals? And then where can people find you if they want to learn more about essential oils, if they want to get the ones that you like, if they want to work with you, ask you some questions and all that?
Okay. So my website right now is, I'm working to add and rearrange a lot of things. But my website is www.infinity, spelled just like the phenomenon, infinity, infinitywellness.co, not com, but .co. So infinitywellness.co. And there you'll find a little bit about my story and my resume and my services that I offer locally. And then also I do consultations over the phone if people want to learn about recovery nutrition. I'm actually right now um, taking consultation clients and helping them for free because I'm still in the the
That's
learning.
awesome.
Yeah, so I'm still in the learning phase. So if you've got individuals that happen to come across this podcast, they can message me on my website and my phone number. Is that okay to
Yeah,
give that
please.
here? Yeah,
Please. Yeah.
my cell phone number, they can text me or call me at 405-203-7227. And if I don't answer, just leave me a voicemail, or they can text me also and just reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in nutrition recovery. So, and we can do, weekly meetings over the phone to get them some information and get me some practice in with the nutrition coaching. So in the future, obviously, I'm adding things to my website right now. As far as aromatherapy, I offer, I'll offer free advice right now for essential oils if anyone wants advice on how to use them. And they can also sign up with Young Living. And if they want to sign up under me, obviously I get the benefit of that.
I'm
So,
going to do that. I'm definitely going to do that because
awesome.
I love using network marketing products because they make the best products. I
Right.
use
Yes.
a New You Life Somaderm gel, which is one of those companies. And I use a bunch of products and I use the Neurovi from that company. And I use a bunch of Kyani health products too, which my parents are builders of. So yeah, these companies have the best like health products, way better
Well,
than stuff you can get at stores. So I'm going to sign up
yeah.
under you.
Yes. Well, wonderful. So Young Living is definitely just a wonderful, wonderful company with integrity and the highest quality products with essential oils that you can really find. So, and you can tell when you use them that they're very powerful. So I'll help anyone get signed up. Just get a hold of me. And as far as the future, I am totally putting it in Spirit's hands. I can feel
Mhm.
that Spirit has great plans for me. And I thank my mom every day because she left me a little chunk of money. I was the primary representative of her estate. And so I took care of selling her house and all these things the last 11 months. But I have a little bit of money in the bank, thankfully, to live off of just till I get this education. And so I've really put it in Spirit's hands as to what all is going to come out of this. But my vision is to have a wellness center here in Oklahoma that's really, truly comprehensive, that offers yoga classes, massage therapy, educational workshops, recovery, like true biochemical recovery, education, and nutritional support, because you can't find that hardly anywhere except for the amino acid therapy that you and Chris are doing through your educational information. So I definitely want to get that out to the world. And I feel like that's a huge part of my calling. So, and I have a feeling that'll develop. It's probably going to take, because I'm about 260 days alcohol free.
Wow, that's awesome.
So
Congratulations. Oh my God.
thank you. Thank you. And so I feel like I need to get maybe like a year under my belt before I fully heal, because I did have multiple withdrawal seizures over the years of my drinking, and my drinking did progress. And so I'm still in the healing process. It takes a while. And I'd like for all your listeners to really keep that in mind. If you're 100 days into recovery and you're still like, ugh, I'm in a bad mood more often than I want to be, or I'm still having these cravings, or I've gained 20 pounds, or I'm lonely, I just would say, just hang on, you're worth it. And sorry, I get emotional because I've gone through this, and I've lost I've lost all of my family to addiction. And so just hang on, and you're worth it, and love yourself, and be good to yourself, and be patient, and reach out. If you need help, reach out, because there are people like Matt and I that know what you're going through. So let us help you and be supportive. So
Oh,
sorry.
thank you so much.
I get it.
It's just so apparent to me, and I'm sure everyone listening or watching, that you are meant to do this. I mean, I feel like once it's been a year, once you feel like you're good and ready to do it, just the sky's the limit for the health place that you're going to have, like a physical brick and mortar place. That sounds phenomenal. Then long distance recovery coaching too. And it's just amazing to meet other people that are out there in this field, helping this population that's very underserved. That's why I got into it. People with addictions I saw were being stigmatized and underserved and even taken advantage of. So I just love bringing fellow people, especially other HSPs, because we have that connection and knowing of kind of what it's like to be. And so thank you so much, especially for your contact info, for leaving your phone number. And so there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You can get a free consultation for recovery coaching nutrition. You can learn more about essential oils from Laura Lee, and the website is www.infinitywellness.co.
.co. Yes.
Awesome. So thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.